Imagine a time when evenings smelled of fresh baked bread, kids raced home to catch the latest TV show, and families gathered around the dinner table, marveling at the newest convenience foods. Before fast food chains and streaming services took over, America thrived on rituals that now feel almost magical. TV dinners that promised a hot meal in minutes, soda fountains where teenagers shared root beer floats, milkmen delivering the day's fresh cream right to your doorstep, and Tupperware parties that turned kitchenware into social events. These weren't just trends, they were the heartbeat of mid-century life. Victory gardens popped up in backyards to stretch grocery budgets, salad bars introduced a playful freedom to customize your meal, and instant coffee made mornings faster without sacrificing warmth. Baking contests showcased neighborhood pride, automat restaurants offered futuristic dining experiences, and fondue parties brought friends together around bubbling pots of cheese and chocolate. Drive-in theaters let families watch movies under the stars, while supper clubs and clam bakes transformed ordinary nights into memorable gatherings. Even the quirky Jell-O molds told a story of creativity, fun, and family bonding. Every dish, delivery, and tradition carried a piece of history, reflecting not just what Americans ate, but how they lived, celebrated, and connected. By exploring these forgotten rituals, we're stepping back into an era of charm, community, and culinary curiosity, a time when food wasn't just fuel, but a centerpiece of life itself. Today, we're uncovering 10 iconic American experiences that have faded from everyday life but left an unforgettable mark. Stay tuned as we bring these lost flavors and traditions back to life, one bite, sip, and memory at a time. Soda fountains. Step back into the golden haze of 1940s America, where laughter echoed through tiled floors, and the soft hum of a soda fountain was the heartbeat of Main Street. Long before fast food chains and coffee shops took over, this was where America came to gather. Teenagers shared first dates over root beer floats, soldiers on leave sipped cherry phosphates, and families celebrated small victories with a simple ice cream sundae. The soda fountain was more than a counter, it was a ritual of connection. Behind it stood the soda jerk, a master of flair and precision, pulling levers and mixing carbonated elixirs with the rhythm of a small-town heartbeat. Every fizzing glass carried a bit of joy, a promise that life, even during hard times, could still taste sweet. These fountains were found inside pharmacies, department stores, and diners, symbols of optimism and simplicity. For a few nickels, one could escape the world outside and find comfort in the swirl of whipped cream and syrup. They were America's answer to the question of how to stay human in an age of rapid change. But as decades passed, something began to shift. Suburban life moved faster, corporate chains grew larger, and the art of hand-mixed sodas slowly vanished. What remained were memories, snapshots of chrome stools, jukebox tunes, and smiling faces reflected in glass. Before we lose those memories completely, let us revisit the stories that defined a generation. From milkmen who brought freshness to the doorstep to families who celebrated the magic of Tupperware, each tradition tells us who we were and what we still miss. So stay with me as we begin our journey through America's most cherished rituals, starting with the bubbling charm of the soda fountain. Milkman deliveries. Before supermarkets ruled the suburbs, mornings in America began with a familiar sound, the gentle clink of glass bottles on a porch. The milkman had arrived. Dressed neatly in white, with a cap tilted just so, he was more than a deliveryman, he was part of the neighborhood's rhythm. Each dawn, his truck rolled through quiet streets, leaving behind fresh bottles of milk, cream, and sometimes butter, chilled by blocks of ice that fogged in the early light. For post-war families of the 1940s and 50s, this simple ritual meant trust, reliability, and connection. Housewives counted on the milkman's punctuality the way they counted on the sunrise. Children would race to the door, eager to swap empty bottles for full ones, while mothers left handwritten notes requesting an extra quart for baking. Back then, refrigeration was limited, and grocery stores were not always nearby. The milkmen filled that gap, ensuring every household had fresh milk for breakfast, coffee, and the evening dessert. It was a personal service that money alone could not replicate, built on familiarity and face-to-face exchange. But as home refrigerators grew larger and supermarkets spread, convenience quietly replaced connection. By the late 1960s, the milkman's role began to fade, his route shrinking one doorstep at a time. Yet, for those who lived through it, the memory endures, the sound of bottles clinking, the crisp morning air, and the comfort of knowing someone would always show up, rain or shine. These milk deliveries were not just about sustenance, they symbolized a way of life when communities were smaller, trust was stronger, and time moved just a little slower. Next, we will open the door to another slice of mid-century America, the sparkle and laughter of Tupperware parties. Tupperware parties. In post-war America, when suburban life was booming and women were redefining their roles at home, a new kind of social gathering began to take shape, the Tupperware party. It was not held in stores or showrooms, but right inside the living room, where friends and neighbors gathered around coffee, laughter, and pastel-colored plastic bowls that promised to change the modern kitchen forever. Tupperware was revolutionary, airtight, unbreakable, and elegantly simple. But what truly transformed it into a cultural phenomenon was the party itself. Women invited other women to their homes to see demonstrations of burping containers, or a quick press of the lid sealed in freshness. It was part sales pitch, part social event, a moment where homemakers could connect, earn income, and feel empowered. The genius behind it all was the idea of community-driven marketing. Instead of relying on department stores, Tupperware turned housewives into entrepreneurs. Each hostess earned commissions, prizes, and recognition rewards that went beyond money. For many, it was the first taste of financial independence, wrapped in the warmth of friendship and shared ambition. These gatherings captured the optimism of the 1950s, a time when convenience met creativity, and domestic life was something to celebrate. Bright catalogs, cheerful chatter, and the pop of a ceiling lid became the soundtrack of suburban dreams. But as retail chains and digital convenience later took over, the magic of those living room parties faded into nostalgia. Still, their spirit remains a reminder of how innovation and community once went hand in hand. From those laughter-filled gatherings, our journey now moves toward another symbol of unity and resilience, the wartime gardens that fed a nation's hope, Victory Gardens. Victory Gardens. During World War II, when food rationing tested every American household, hope did not come from grocery stores, it grew right in the backyard. These were the Victory Gardens, small patches of soil that turned ordinary citizens into silent soldiers of sustenance. From city rooftops to rural fields, families rolled up their sleeves and planted tomatoes, beans, and carrots, not just for themselves, but for the nation. The idea was simple yet powerful: if every home grew its own food, more supplies could go to troops overseas. But beyond the practicality, Victory Gardens became a source of pride and unity. Neighbors shared seeds, recipes, and gardening tips, transforming empty lots into green sanctuaries of purpose. Even schoolyards and public parks blossomed with rows of vegetables, tended by children who understood that every sprout mattered. Posters declared, "Plant a Victory Garden, our food is fighting." It was more than a slogan, it was a movement that wove patriotism into the soil. By 1943, nearly 20 million Victory Gardens were thriving across America, producing close to 40% of the nation's vegetables. These gardens symbolized more than survival, they represented resilience, self-reliance, and hope in uncertain times. Families found comfort in the rhythm of planting and harvesting, in the shared belief that every effort counted. The dinner table became a quiet celebration of contribution, a bowl of soup, a salad, a story of unity.
When the war ended, many gardens faded, replaced by manicured lawns and store-bought produce.
But the legacy of the Victory Garden still whispers today, reminding us that strength often begins with a single seed. And as America grew into the modern age, another culinary trend began to bloom: the colorful, crisp charm of salad bars.
Salad bars. By the late 1960s, a quiet revolution was taking place in American dining, one that celebrated freshness, color, and choice. It was the birth of the salad bar, a buffet of crisp lettuce, bright tomatoes, and endless toppings that invited diners to build their own plates. For a generation raised on casseroles and canned goods, this was something entirely new, food that felt alive. The concept began modestly, tucked inside Midwestern steakhouses and family restaurants. A long counter line with chilled bowls of greens, dressings, and garnishes offered something people had not seen before: control over their own meal. You could pile it high with bacon bits and Thousand Island dressing, or keep it simple with spinach and vinegar. Either way, it felt fresh, healthy, and modern. Salad bars fit perfectly into America's changing lifestyle. As the health movement of the 1970s grew and women entered the workforce in larger numbers, people craved faster, lighter options that still felt wholesome. Restaurants saw the appeal instantly. The salad bar was inexpensive, customizable, and most importantly, social. Families, friends, and co-workers lingered together, laughing over the clatter of plates and tongs. Soon, it became a national dining staple, a symbol of abundance and freedom of choice. The vibrant colors of chopped vegetables and cold stainless steel bowls reflected the optimism of the time. It was not just a meal, it was participation. Though many salad bars disappeared after the rise of fast casual chains and changing food safety trends, their spirit lingers in today's self-serve culture. They taught Americans that freshness could be fun and that food was best enjoyed when you built it yourself. Next, we stir a different kind of revolution, one brewed in kitchens and break rooms across the nation: instant coffee. Instant coffee. In the years after World War II, when convenience became the new American dream, one humble invention changed the morning ritual forever: instant coffee. It promised comfort in a cup, ready in seconds, no percolator required. For busy families and tired workers, it felt like modern magic: hot, aromatic, and effortless. Instant coffee had existed since the early 1900s, but it was during the war that it found its true moment. Soldiers overseas carried small tins of powdered coffee in their rations, a quick taste of home amid the chaos. When they returned, they brought the habit back with them. By the 1950s, brands like Nescafe and Maxwell House filled kitchen cupboards, and the sound of a spoon stirring crystals into boiling water became the soundtrack of American mornings. It fit perfectly with the spirit of post-war efficiency. Housewives juggling new appliances, careers, and family life embraced anything that made their routines easier. A jar of instant coffee meant hospitality could happen anytime: neighbors dropping by, guests arriving unannounced, a late-night chat at the kitchen table. But beyond convenience, there was symbolism. Instant coffee represented progress, the belief that science could simplify life without losing warmth. Advertisements promised coffee perfection in moments, and the shiny packaging felt futuristic, part of a world speeding toward comfort and innovation. Over time, fresh brewed coffee regained its prestige, and instant blends were pushed aside by gourmet roasters and espresso machines. Yet, there remains something deeply nostalgic about tearing open a small packet, pouring hot water, and watching the aroma rise, a simple pleasure born from a fast-moving century. From steaming mugs to sweet celebrations, our next stop brings us to another beloved American pastime: the joyful baking contests that turned kitchens into arenas of creativity. Baking contests. In mid-century America, before reality shows and social media competitions,
kitchens became stages for a different kind of glory, baking contests. These were not just about flour and sugar, they were about pride, skill, and community. From county fairs to church halls, homemakers measured, mixed, and molded their creations with precision, hoping for ribbons, recognition, and a taste of friendly rivalry. Baking contests reflected the era's values: attention to detail, patience, and the joy of creating something tangible from simple ingredients. Pies with perfectly crimped edges, cakes frosted with care, and cookies arranged like tiny works of art spoke louder than words. Every dish told a story of family traditions, of passed down recipes, and of the love that went into every bite. For many, these contests were a chance to step out of the everyday and shine. Housewives who spent hours preparing meals for family could now showcase their talent to an appreciative audience. Neighbors and friends gathered to taste, critique, and celebrate, making the experience as much about social connection as culinary skill. Children watched in awe, learning the delicate dance of baking while absorbing lessons in pride and perseverance. The contests also mirrored the optimism of the times. Post-war America valued abundance, creativity, and progress, and the kitchen became a laboratory for expression. Baking contests transformed simple ingredients into symbols of achievement and joy, capturing the spirit of a nation rebuilding, celebrating, and sharing. Though modern life has shifted these gatherings to television screens and online uploads, the essence of those competitions remains timeless. They remind us that food is more than sustenance, it is culture, tradition, and celebration wrapped into every slice and spoonful. Automat restaurants. In the bustling streets of 1950s and 60s America, a unique dining experience captured the imagination of city dwellers: the automat restaurant. These were no ordinary eateries, they were a marvel of convenience and ingenuity. Patrons approached gleaming walls of coin-operated glass compartments, each containing a freshly prepared meal. Insert a nickel, turn a knob, and a steaming plate of food slid open, ready to enjoy. Automats transformed the idea of dining. They were quick, affordable, and remarkably efficient, catering to busy workers, students, and families seeking a meal without the wait. The concept combined speed with novelty, turning eating into an almost playful ritual. From macaroni and cheese to sandwiches and pies, each compartment showcased a tempting array of choices, emphasizing both accessibility and variety. Behind the scenes, automats were carefully orchestrated machines. Staff worked tirelessly to refill compartments, ensuring food remained fresh, warm, and appealing. The glass display invited trust: diners could see exactly what they were about to consume. This transparency created a connection between the meal and the customer, a subtle intimacy in an era increasingly defined by urban anonymity. Automats also reflected the cultural optimism of post-war America. They symbolized progress, modernity, and the belief that technology could improve daily life. The clean lines, chrome accents, and efficient design mirrored the era's fascination with innovation and futuristic living. Yet, as fast food chains expanded and convenience grew differently, automats began to fade. The last ones disappeared from major cities by the 1970s, leaving only memories of their gleaming walls and the thrill of self-service dining. These vanished restaurants remain icons of a bygone era, reminding us how innovation once intersected with everyday life. Fondue parties. In the 1960s and 1970s, as America embraced new tastes and social experimentation, an elegant and interactive dining trend swept suburban homes: the fondue party. It was more than a meal, it was a gathering, a theatrical event where friends circled a bubbling pot of melted cheese, chocolate, or broth, skewering bread, vegetables, and fruit with long forks. Every dip, swirl, and shared laugh turned eating into entertainment. Fondue parties reflected the era's fascination with sophistication and novelty. They were inspired by Swiss and French traditions but adapted for the American palate and living room. Households invested in colorful ceramic pots, portable burners, and carefully arranged tables, creating an atmosphere of charm and participation.
Guests were encouraged to experiment, combining flavors and dipping ingredients, making each serving unique.
These parties became social rituals, especially in the suburbs, where homemakers sought ways to entertain that were stylish yet approachable.
They allowed hosts to showcase hospitality, creativity, and flair without the formality of a full dinner.
The fondue pot became a centerpiece, symbolizing warmth, connection, and the joy of shared experience.
Fondue also represented a broader shift in American dining culture.
Meals were no longer strictly utilitarian, they were interactive and playful, reflecting curiosity, leisure, and a willingness to embrace global influences. The communal nature of dipping and sharing fostered conversation, laughter, and memorable moments, transforming the act of eating into a celebration of togetherness. Although the popularity of fondue parties waned by the 1980s, they remain a symbol of mid-century charm, culinary adventure, and social intimacy. For those who remember the sight of skewers dipping into molten cheese or chocolate, it evokes nostalgia for evenings filled with warmth, laughter, and a little indulgence.
Drive-in theaters.
In the 1950s and 1960s, America discovered a new way to enjoy movies, snacks, and summer nights all at once: the drive-in theater.
Families piled into their cars, packed with blankets, popcorn, and soda, and drove to large outdoor screens that transformed empty lots into cinematic wonderlands.
The drive-in was more than a theater, it was an experience, a ritual, and a stage for memories.
These theaters captured the optimism and mobility of post-war America. With cars becoming symbols of freedom and prosperity, the drive-in allowed people to combine transportation, leisure, and entertainment effortlessly.
Children sprawled on blankets in the backseat while parents tuned the car radio to catch the film's audio, creating a private yet communal viewing experience.
It was casual, social, and entirely unique to the American way of life.
Drive-ins were also places of connection.
Teenagers found independence and romance under the night sky, while families shared affordable entertainment without the formality of indoor cinemas.
The snack bar became an essential part of the experience, offering hot dogs, fries, milkshakes, and candy, turning every visit into a feast. The combination of food, film, and the crisp night air created an atmosphere of magic and nostalgia that could not be replicated indoors. Culturally, drive-ins reflected more than convenience, they represented a society in motion, embracing modernity while celebrating togetherness. They symbolized a time when leisure and ingenuity intersected, and when the simple joy of a silver screen illuminated the collective imagination.
Though most drive-ins eventually closed as multiplexes and home entertainment grew, their legacy endures.
For many, the memory of watching a film from the hood of a car, surrounded by the scent of popcorn and the hum of engines, remains a vivid reminder of a uniquely American pastime. From soda fountains to drive-in theaters, post-war America was a landscape defined by innovation, connection, and a deep appreciation for shared experiences. Each of these traditions, milkman deliveries, Tupperware parties, victory gardens, salad bars, instant coffee, baking contests, automat restaurants, fondue parties, and drive-in theaters, tells a story of how everyday life became a tapestry of creativity, resilience, and joy. These were not just conveniences or trends, they were reflections of the values, hopes, and rhythms of a generation. Families and neighbors gathered, laughed, and supported one another through meals, celebrations, and shared rituals. Each tradition carried lessons in community, resourcefulness, and the quiet art of making life meaningful through small acts: a freshly poured milk bottle, a hand-mixed cake, a bubbling pot of cheese, or a night under the stars with a movie screen flickering in front of you. While many of these experiences have faded from modern life, their essence remains in our collective memory. They remind us that food, leisure, and innovation were always about more than utility, they were about human connection, shared joy, and the comfort of ritual. Looking back, we see that the heart of mid-century America was not just in what people ate or where they went, but in how they came together, creating bonds that outlasted fleeting trends.
As we remember these lost traditions, we honor the creativity, perseverance, and optimism that shaped daily life in post-war America.
Their stories offer inspiration, nostalgia, and a renewed appreciation for the moments that made life both simple and extraordinary. If you have enjoyed this journey through America's vanished experiences, make sure to subscribe to America's Lost Recipes. Join us as we continue to uncover forgotten stories, recipes, and traditions that once defined American life, connecting the past to the present, one memory at a time.